Oh, once again, grain traders. I'm meteorologist Sean Sublett for CropProphet, and it's time for the forecast of the forecast discussion and verification for this Monday, June 9th, 2025. We turn the clock back to Friday of last week when we looked at the probability that the ECMWF ensemble mean would come in warmer or cooler than normal on Monday. And it's a very distinct pattern here where we see higher probabilities of it coming warmer than normal across the Dakotas and extending into the central Great Lakes, and cooler than normal farther to the south. But through a lot of the Corn Belt, there's a lot of uncertainty from the forecast last Friday, shown here by the gray areas, extending from the Ohio Valley, center of the Ohio Valley, back to the front range of the Rockies, back toward Colorado and Nebraska. But then the actual ECMWF ensemble mean coming in this morning, and we see kind of a miss, really, to be honest, for the eastern Dakotas and back to the upper peninsula of Michigan and even lower Michigan. Some of the temperatures for this week forecast by the actual ensemble means running 2 to 4 degrees cooler than normal. And a lot of these areas that showed more uncertainty for Nebraska and Iowa are coming in warmer than normal, especially southward from Lincoln and Des Moines. But then farther eastward into the Corn Belt, more of a mishmash, not a lot of signal one way or the other in the ensemble means this morning. Going into the week 2 temperature forecast, days 8 to 14, again rewinding to Friday, the forecast suggesting that 40, 50, as much as 70% likelihood that the ensemble mean for days 8 to 14 would come in warmer than normal through the central part of the let's call it the Mississippi Valley. They say the Quad Cities back to Des Moines is where those probabilities were highest, but still a pretty strong signal here for a lot of the Corn Belt and northward into the Wheat Belt. For the most part, that's held pretty firm. We see a small cooler than normal forecast here in the second week, days 8 to 14 across the northern stretches of the Wheat Belt and certainly down here in deep South Texas. But all in all, a warmer than normal forecast of the ensemble mean in days 8 to 14 from the ECMWF. Regarding precipitation, likewise, we go back to Friday of last week and the forecast of the forecast, suggesting that the ensemble mean from the ECMWF this Monday would come in drier than normal across the Quad Cities and extending eastward back toward Cleveland, and a lot less of a signal immediately to the south and west of there, and a 40% probability that the model would come in wetter than normal across the Arrowhead of Michigan. That really hasn't panned out. When we look at the actual ECMWF ensemble mean forecast this Monday morning, Arrowhead of Minnesota coming in substantially drier than normal for the week 1 forecast, days 1 through 7. Now, a lot of that drier than normal signal has held, especially here through the front range of the Rockies and getting farther eastward into a good part of both Nebraska and Kansas. But we see a little bit more really of a miss farther to the north. Then in the week 2 forecast, the same kind of idea applied here, a broad, drier than normal signal, 40 to as much as 50% probability that the model would come in drier than normal from the front range and extending back toward the southern Great Lakes. And on the front range, that has kind of held true, not so much as you go farther eastward, let's say from St. Louis and Kansas City and back all the way to the Appalachians. Models coming in wetter than normal in days 8 to 14. That's the week 2 forecast for the ECMWF ensemble means. So that is the forecast of the forecast, discussion and verification for this Monday, June 9th, 2025. I'm meteorologist Sean Sublett for CropProphet, and we'll talk to you again this Friday.